Hi, it's Mish with Unstuck in 15, and I am here today with Tahira Jamani. Hi, Tira, how are you?
I'm Shal, doing really well, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. So, if before we get started, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a background working in human resources. Graduated from University of Western Ontario in a management and organizational skills program. Started working in HR for a bit, and currently I'm a mindfulness facilitator. So took a bit of a turn, and I'm a certified teacher of the Search Inside Yourself program. So that's the mindful based emotional intelligence program that was developed at Google. So now that's what I do. It's my job.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it's good to have you. And I've watched your journey. So we know each other from your brother and my
Mhm.
husband having gone to high school together. And yeah, so I've got to kind of be a witness to your whole journey. It's been super cool. And so today for Unstuck in 15, um, Tahira has kindly offered to share her journey in kind of exploring your steps and navigating those waters. So, yeah, I'll just hand it over to you to share. Wait, before we get started with that, though, just a lot of people who listen to Unstuck in 15 or who have an Unstuck in 15 session with me are contemplating a career change. And it's something that's comes with a lot of stress, a lot of imposter syndrome, because a big part of your identity is tied to your work, especially in society. And so I think if people hear your story, they can get some inspiration and know that yes, it's hard now, but that doesn't mean it always will be. And oftentimes it's a lot brighter on the other end.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally feel the career change transition. Like that's exactly what I've been through, and it's been part of my journey of being stuck and then becoming unstuck. Actually, um, so happy to share about that, and yeah, hopefully can shine a bit of light for others because I feel it in those challenging times. Definitely been there. Yeah.
Yeah. So when was the moment that you first felt stuck or that you recognized that you were stuck? Because sometimes we don't always recognize and we feel that tension. And then yeah, if you can just describe when that
Mhm.
moment was or how that came about for you.
Yeah, I think it happened over a little while. It's something that kind of set in after a while. I was not sleeping well. I was like up at night and just kind of contemplating life and what I was doing with my life and why I was where I was in my work. I was working in Toronto at this time and was working in HR and hit burnout pretty bad. Um, I wasn't really sure what to do. I mean, I thought everything in my life was as it should be. You know, we're told that things are get a good job, you have a good partner, you have like, you have your own place, like you're independent. Like I had all these things that I was told life should be like this. And it just didn't feel fulfilling. Yeah, I wasn't able to sleep, didn't feel excited about my day to day. Just kept thinking like, where am I actually going and what am I doing? And is that where I want to be going? You know, so a
Yeah.
lot of stirring in the moment and feeling like kind of helpless and hopeless and directionless, essentially.
Yeah, I know that feeling all too well in my seven
Yeah,
career changes. And so then
yeah.
what were some of the first steps that you took on your journey to become unstuck?
hmm Yeah. So some of the first steps, I reached out for help. So I definitely connected to like close friends and family. My brother being one of them. Um, and then ultimately connected with a naturopath who basically said that burnouts that I was dealing with was connected with a lot of stress, which was difficult for me to accept because stress and some of those sort of parts of our mental health were kind of pushed aside for a lot of my life growing up. Um, And yeah, like after hearing that and accepting it is when I actually started to make some moves. And I just decided I was like tired of my own shit. I didn't want to stay in that space. I didn't want to stay feeling as awful as I did. Like I was coming home every day from work with just like crippling stomach pain and just didn't want to continue. I was like, there's got to be more to life than this, you know. And so once I accepted
Yeah.
it was stress, and I quit my job without another job lined up, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. That was the first big step that I took, actually.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
a lot of times our bodies will tell us, and it starts out in these whispers and these little aches and pains, and then it becomes more
Yeah.
chronic. And yeah, that's
Hmm.
crazy. And a lot of people are really afraid to take that leap to leave something that's not working.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. We kind of get comfortable in our own uncomfort, you know?
Yeah. Or somebody said to me once, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Exactly.
No, no.
Exactly.
And one of the things
Yeah.
that you did in this time, was this when you did the Vipassana? Because you were the one that introduced me to that concept, I believe, or
Hmm.
the whole what Vipassana is. So if you don't
Practice.
mind for our listeners, just kind of describing what it is and your
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I had left Toronto, moved back to Calgary, I was seeing a new naturopath here. Was kind of like rebuilding my life, like bit by bit here and there, but still kind of felt this sort of empty bucket, like empty void of not feeling fulfilled enough. And when I had connected with this naturopath in Calgary, she suggested that I try going to Vipassana, which is the 10-day silent meditation course. Um, and I was like, I'm not going to for 10 days in silence. That's bonkers. Like I don't need that. It felt like
Well,
too drastic.
and the silence is like really silent, like no eye
Hmm.
contact, no talking, no reading, no writing, no gesturing,
Hmm.
like nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're just meditating 10 hours a day and sleeping and eating. Like there's no other activity. So, you know, when she had said this, I was like, nah, I'm good. I think I'm all right. I'm okay. And I had been listening to a lot of Tim Ferriss's podcasts actually, and a lot of the, you know, notable people that he was interviewing all talked about having a meditation or mindfulness practice that helped them find a lot of clarity and inner confidence, and just seemed to resolve a lot of things for people. And I was like, this sounds like a really good skill to learn, you know, but I had tried learning to meditate on a few apps, didn't really work for me. So when my naturopath suggested this first, I was like, definitely not. Uh, and then, you know, after a few weeks, I did a little bit of research, and then I decided this is probably a really good skill for me to learn, like how to actually meditate and how to do that without any other distractions. So it's one thing to do it for 10 minutes a day at home when you can't really sink into it. So going to Vipassana was really impactful and profound for me because it taught me a lot of those skills that I needed to learn. Um, and coming out of there was life changing, quite literally life changing. And part of the transition that I've made now to be able to share mindfulness with other people from, you know, a different HR background, like that was sort of the start of the major overhaul transition, I would say. Um, yeah, it was a very interesting experience, which I know you went through too and had your own
Yeah.
journey as well. It's
And were
wild.
there some insights that you gained from there that you carried forward into your next step into getting unstuck?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Lots of them. I had some personal insights about myself, just in terms of how I thought I was. Like I thought I was really good with time, being on time, and how I appreciated time. And I just had some realizations while I was there, that I was stuck on certain things for years. I was like, why is this resurfacing? Like, I thought I had let go of this. And so I just had a whole different perspective, being able to kind of watch myself go through my life and see myself in different ways. One of the other realizations I had was to resist less and just go for it. So one of the things I had really wanted to do was to explore doing my MBA. Um, and I mean, I had been talking about this for probably 5 or 7 years, but never actually did anything about it. So coming out of Vipassana, um, I decided I was just going to do it. I was like, I'm going to try, going to see what happens, and I'm just going to do it. So I had come out of Vipassana in January, and usually for programs, you have to apply by end of March, beginning of April. So I had a very short time frame to study everything, do the GMAT program, I mean the GMAT test, and do my application and apply to get in. So I studied for the GMAT really hard, and I did really bad. Like I had about 6 weeks to study for this. And I'm like, I don't remember how to do long multiplication or long division or all of these really specific things that we learned in junior high and high school. Was relearning. And the GMAT, there's no calculator or any of that kind of stuff. So there
Oh
was a
my
lot,
gosh.
lot. Yeah. Like I don't remember how to do those things. Who does? So I started this journey of studying my butt off. And I studied so hard for that GMAT. And I did really poorly, like under the average that I would need to submit. And I still wanted to submit. I really wanted to go to Singapore because I thought that going to Singapore would be a really incredible immersive experience. And I also thought that doing my MBA would give me answers to my life that I needed, like where I actually wanted to go, what direction in terms of business and career, and trying different routes within business and the MBA program. So I thought the MBA was going to like answer all my questions. And yeah, I still submitted my application to University of Singapore, and they got back to me and said, we like your application, but your GMAT's pretty low. Are you open to redoing it? Yes, absolutely. I will redo it. Give me 3 weeks. I'll restudy and I'll redo it. And this was like really pushing their time limit of applicants. So I studied again my buns off for 3 weeks. I did like some prep courses and I tried to cram as much as I could. I went in for the GMAT and I was like, I'm going to kill it. This is going to be good. I have all these affirmations. I'm like, it's going to be good. I'm going to get in. Everything's going to be great. My life's going to be fixed. And when you do the GMAT, now you do it on a computer. And so you get your score immediately. And I did worse the second time.
Oh no.
And it was
Oh,
heartbreaking. Yeah, I sat in the car and I just bawled my eyes out and I was like, this is awful. Like, what am I going to do with my life? I thought it was kind of an all or nothing situation. It was very devastating. But I ultimately ended up, I had started a spreadsheet of why I wanted to do my MBA. This is my other kind of hack and like tool in life that I use all the time to help me get unstuck, actually, is just spreadsheet it out. And I spreadsheeted out like why I wanted to actually do my MBA. And when I had looked at all the different pieces, a lot of them were really kind of ego based, to like prove to myself that I can do it, or prove to this person that I could do it, or like just get an MBA credentials. Like there was certain pieces too, like having a global network and a community and learning and those things I wanted to do as well. But yeah, it was a lot of them I just noticed were kind of ego based. So I continued on to had to let go of it. Right, the application time had passed. I was rejected. Didn't know what I was going to do. I started working with a life coach, and also how we had something we share in common as well. And yeah, working with Tina was incredible. And ultimately, I came across the Search Inside Yourself program, and I just knew from seeing that this was actually the further education that I wanted to do. And I mapped it against my spreadsheet that I had, and it hit every single bucket that I wanted
oh
to
nice.
achieve with further education. And I realized in that moment, I was like, this is why I didn't get into the MBA, because that was not my path. That was just
Yeah,
not
yeah.
what
Amazing
was
how
meant
that
to
happens.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. but
So
it like will knock you out before you before you get there.
yeah,
So
a big punch in the gut.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious about this spreadsheet. Can you describe it for us? Like,
Mhm.
are there multiple tabs? What's across the rows and the columns,
Yeah, I mean, I would have to look it up and
or
get a bit
just a
more
few?
detailed into
Yeah.
it. But yeah, overall, what I kind of remember is it was just one sheet. Actually, it's probably like my most simplest spreadsheet ever because I generally do have many tabs and things. Um, but I think along, the column down, I had a section of the reasons why I wanted to get further education is what it was. So, like wanted a global network, wanted to meet more like-minded people, wanted to complete my MBA, wanted to find out what my strengths were, wanted to learn more, wanted to, yeah, like what were some of those reasons, right? And then I went across another column and mapped them to, I think the second column was like, is this a valid reason?
Oh, nice. That's a really good question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a tough reality check because the validity was like where the ego based part came in, right? So when it was like, oh, prove to myself that I can do an MBA, I'm like, that's silly. That's not a that's not a valid reason for
Yeah.
wanting to spend a boatload of money to go and do my MBA, or like, be that one person in like my small community, or like the recognition, the pride part of it. When I was able to map out what was a valid reason, um, from a non-ego,
Mhm.
space, it shone a lot of light into why I was making not just that decision, but also a lot of other decisions in my life. So it was very impactful. And yeah, and when I found the Search Inside Yourself program and went back to my spreadsheet, I was like, oh, this is hitting all of the valid reasons that are meaningful and meaty and like real, that are
Yeah.
going to carry me somewhere. So that's kind of the overarching structure of the spreadsheet that really helped
Yeah.
me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And what is this Search Inside Yourself program?
Yeah, so that's the mindful based emotional intelligence program that was developed at Google. And it felt really aligned because when I took the Pasana course, it's a lot more on the spiritual side. And I wanted to find a way to share that with people in a way that was just a lot more digestible and easy to understand. And that I didn't have to be like my naturopath, telling someone to go and sit in silence for 10 days if they want to experience some of these benefits. So when I came across this program, it's really evidence based. It makes mindfulness and emotional intelligence training really accessible and like lots of micro practices and micro learnings, broken down in lots of different ways. And I mean, Google's full of engineers, right? So it really makes mindfulness and emotional intelligence accessible to that kind of a mindset, in a way that's really based on scientific findings and research, and just makes it a lot more accessible for people. So when I found the program online, I quickly did a search to see if there were any teachers of this program in Alberta, and there were none. And I just kind of knew from reading the site and understanding the program, I was like, this is how I'm going to share mindfulness with people. This
Oh,
is
nice.
the answer. So I put a lot more work into applying for that teacher training than I did for my MBA, actually, because I just knew, I was like, this
Y-
has to work out for me. And I was like, if it doesn't, I'd be devastated. But I had this inner sense of just knowing, like, I'm going to get accepted for this teacher training because it's just what I meant to do. And I just kind of knew it.
Yeah. And did you do anything differently in your prep this time around? Or ask yourself different questions or have a different process?
Um, yeah, the process was obviously the questions were a little different than on an MBA, teacher or MBA application rather. But I dug a lot deeper into kind of that space that was less ego based, and really poured a lot of my, I guess, as we say, like our truth into it, like really who I was at my core and why I should be accepted for this program and why I'm a good candidate for this, because I truly embody it and want to share it. So it was definitely a different process, and there was a lot more sort of heart that went into it, but also a lot of less resistance because I just knew that if this is meant to be my path, then I will get accepted. Same as when I got into Vipassana, when I first had signed up for the course, I was on a wait list, and my naturopath had said, if it's meant to be, you'll get in. And I'd gone over Christmas time and over New Year's. So it was really busy there. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to get accepted. I was like number 20 or something on the wait list. And then I got accepted, and I was like, okay, this is it. Like, it's meant to happen. So yeah, the teacher training application was a bit of a different process, but a lot more flow, felt a lot more,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
good groove with it. Like, it's gonna pan out because this is what it's meant to be.
Oh, that's amazing. So my last question will be just describe what it was like when you got that acceptance.
Oh my gosh, I was over the moon. It was, I don't even know how to explain it. It was so powerful, and it was so affirming of the several prior years that I had been through of being stuck and trying to find my way out. And like, we try something and it doesn't work, and then oftentimes we get really discouraged. But just knowing that I kept trying, and kept some of the momentum when I had some of it, felt so worth it. And it felt like a lot of alignment. It was just like, this is it. Now my life is beginning, even though it already
Yeah,
begun,
yeah, yeah.
felt
Oh,
really
that's
on
amazing.
fire. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing, like your body knows when you're not in the right environment and it tells you when you are. I
Exactly.
really, really appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Tahira.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
if anybody wants to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing and what you're working
Mhm.
on, what's the best way to connect?
Yeah, so the best way would be either LinkedIn, to connect with me on LinkedIn, Tahira Jamani, or I have a website as well, the Chain Reaction. Sorry, it's www.chainreaction.life. That's my mindfulness and emotional intelligence coaching business. So feel free to reach out to me there. I'm also on Instagram, um, but currently on a bit of a break, on an Instagram break. So I'd say LinkedIn, website is the best for now.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, of course, pleasure. Thanks for having me.